The Bridge of Khazad-dûm, perhaps the most well-known scene in the entire Lord of the Rings movie trilogy, even if it is misquoted from the book. How many people, I wonder, have watched that scene admiring Gandalf, the lone defender of the Fellowship of the Ring, willing to lay down his life in its protection? Or perhaps Boromir, who knows that this foe is beyond him, yet has to be restrained, lest he falls aiding Gandalf? Or Aragorn, who watches Gandalf fall, knowing that the responsibility of leading the Fellowship will pass to him, and that he must leave his friend behind to the darkness in order to carry on. Or maybe it's not one of these people. Maybe the person one looks up to is Harry Potter, Randall Thor, Luke Skywalker, the Doctor, Captain Jack Sparrow. Because everyone has a fictional hero, someone who doesn't exist, yet is looked up to anyway. And, as with any hero, it is a person worth striving to emulate. People talk all the time about imagination, and they speak of dreaming. Anything is possible, they say. Whatever you dream, you can accomplish. And the one I've happened to hear the most, what do you mean it doesn't work? Just use your imagination. Yeah, well, sometimes things are impossible. Sometimes, no matter how much you imagine or you dream about something, it will never happen. I can imagine all I want, but I'll never be able to summon lightning like Thor, or use the Force the way Obi-Wan Kenobi does, or cast magic spells like Lumos or Wingardium Leviosa. I am limited by the fabric of reality, and so, in fact, is everyone else. So what if my hero, the one I look up to and imagine myself as on occasion, is one of these people? Well, if I've learned anything from literary analysis, every good character has a development arc. And that arc, among other things, proves that a character is human. They have human flaws, human virtues, human traits, and human ideals, and that's why we can empathize with them. We understand them because they're like us, and we emulate them because they're different. And so, if we want to be like our fictional heroes, we have to find the moments where they're not being supernatural, but human.
Fools!
Right there. The sword. Now, heroically falling to one's death probably isn't something most people envision themselves doing at any point in their lives, but that isn't the point here. I will admit that Gandalf is one of my fictional heroes, and so is Aragorn, for that matter, and a host of others, but most of them have something in common. The sword. A major trope of fantasy literature, sure, but swords are a staple of medieval fantasy, which, if you haven't noticed yet, I'm rather obsessed with. And so here, I finally see something I can imitate outside my private thoughts and imaginings. I can build a sword. But not just any sword. A sword that I'm going to forge myself. Of course, that's definitely easier said than done. I already had a forge, but unfortunately I'd never used it before. So the first step was lighting it, and that took a lot longer than I expected. I finally managed to get that done, and after that, my next step was to see what I could do with this brand new forge fire. So I took a metal rod and hammered it into a 90-degree angle just because I could. And with that under my belt, I figured I had enough experience to start on the sword. The first step was forging the hilt. I had to hammer down the sides of a sheet of metal so that my hand could fit around it comfortably, and it was difficult. There were distractions, too. My parents wanting to know how the project was going, my brother wondering what exactly I was doing, my phone, the forge dying on me, my makeshift anvil stand not quite working out, the fact that I could only use the forge during daylight, when I could see things, and sometimes it was difficult to get the motivation to actually get out and use the forge. The biggest problem I had, though, was that my forge wasn't hot enough to heat the metal red hot. I could get it soft enough to shape, but not hot enough to glow, which made things immensely difficult. I later found that this was because of the charcoal I'd been using. The briquettes don't burn hot enough to heat steel. You need real charcoal. But I already had 2 bags, and I couldn't find any real charcoal anywhere local, so I just kept going. Eventually, though, I got the hang of it. Forging the blade was much easier than the hilt, and I finished that in an afternoon. Then the point. Then the crossguard. Then the hilt wrapping. And, in the end, all of my hard work paid off. Because, in addition to my new knowledge of blacksmithing and steel and coal, I've gained my main product. This. Most fantasy swords have a fancy name, and this one is no different. I've named it Cold Steel to symbolize how it was forged. Anyway, now that I have that, I have another way to connect with my fictional heroes. And here's the thing. Imagination alone would never have gotten me here. It's not enough to have a dream, or to be creative. Yes, it's important, but imagination can't solve all of your problems for you. To reach your goals, you need motivation. You need to be creative enough to have an idea, but you also need to be brave enough to try it, or maybe just insane. You need to be determined to see it through from start to finish. You need to have confidence in yourself and your ability to excel at what you've chosen to do. If you want to accomplish things, it's not enough to dream. If you want to accomplish things, you have to believe.